She picked Serena. And who am I? That's not a secret I'll never tell. You know you love me. XOXO. Gossip Girl.
What's up? We got Gossip Girl, Season 2, Episode 22, Southern Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. This episode starts off with Blair and Nate going on a walk in Greenwich Village to look at NYU campuses. Nate offers to help Blair figure out what's the best pizza, coffee, and everything else after he teaches her to ride the subway. Horrified, she asks him not to make her ride it, but he reminds her that they'll be going to school but at opposite ends of the city, so the subway will be the fastest way to each other. Elsewhere, Rufus takes Dan and Jenny to an antique shop and tells them to pick up something out. He excitedly says that the gallery is being listed 3 times what he bought it. Again, you're making Vanessa lose her job, Rufus. Unless Vanessa doesn't know. Yeah, so he can send them both to college and have some money left over. I guess Vanessa, she worked there for him, and he's not even considering her feelings of the fact that she worked at the cafe there for him. She's not even considering his feelings. She's just like, oh, Dan, Jenny, I'm selling it so you guys can get college money, so you guys can save for college. Crap, Vanessa, I guess. Wow, Rufus, I thought you liked her. You gave her that job, and as soon as you get no money, you're gonna sell the place where she works, and not even consider her. You're not even gonna think about how would she feel about it. Dan notices Rufus checking out rings and mentions it to him. Rufus tells him not to get any idea and walks away to take a call from Lily. Dan motions Jenny to come over and show her what Rufus was looking at. At the Vanderwoods, Serena and Blair return from shopping. Blair asks how Gabriel is. Serena says things with him are perfect, not knowing that he's a liar and is still dating his ex and all that stuff. Things are perfect between them, except for he's a compulsive liar. But she admits that he's hard to make and keep plans with. Plus, sometimes he poofs and disappears to meet with his girlfriend, Poppy. To secretly meet with his girlfriend, Poppy. Blair makes a crack about them getting married, and Serena tells her how they kind of did. Blair suggests they find what he's hiding by following him. However, Serena isn't into this idea and tells her don't do it. But, again, Serena, this is Blair we're talking about. Of course she's going to not listen to you and totally follow Gabriel anyway because it's Blair. Meanwhile, Nate and Chuck play basketball. Nate confesses that next year is going to be hard since they're going to be far away from each other. Chuck jokes that Blair can stay with him at the PAL since it's in the middle. Nate doesn't find it funny and they continue to play ball. That night, Serena and Gabriel have dinner with Rufus and Lily as said in this scene for the background image. Gabriel explains that his family's in the tobacco industry and doesn't want to get involved with that. He wants to do something positive. He continues to say that he's backing a company that wants to provide internet access to the developing world. But his family is disappointed with him. Lily gets a text about wine selection from her caterer. She explains that she's hosting the apartment's co-op meeting that next night. She invites Gabriel to keep Serena company, and he agrees to come. Rufus says they go to a movie, but Gabriel turns him down, saying he has a lot of work to do. He goes to leave, and Serena follows, trying to convince him to stay. She says that his spending time with her family is important, and he promises to give her all his attention after his deal closes. Down on the street, Blair runs into Chuck. Of course, Blair's spying on Gabriel because they see him exit and meet up with Poppy, who jumps into his arms. Blair snaps a photo with her phone of the two of them together. Next day, Blair calls Serena to tell her what she has to do something about Gabriel and Poppy. Serena replies she'll do it on her own, and Blair should be focused on her own relationship with Nate. While they talk, Gabriel enters the Vanderwoodsons. Serena hangs up on Blair, and she says that there's something she needs to know. At the Waldorf, Blair fills Nate in on what happened the night before. She mentions that Chuck was there, and Nate kind of grows suspicious about them being together. He plays it off, and Blair says they're lucky to be in a relationship with no secrets or lying. Back at the Vanderwoodsons, Serena asks Gabriel if he's sleeping with Poppy. He lies, saying of course not, and then he told her he needs some time to think despite never wanting to see Poppy again. He continues that all of the investors in the company are Poppy's contacts, so he's been lying to Poppy that he isn't with Serena to continue to use them. Serena says she hates lying and that what he's doing to her, and she hates lying and that what he's doing to her and Poppy. He says he spent 2 years developing this company and he can't lose all he's worked for. He explains that that the contracts will be done in 1 week, and afterwards he'll tell Poppy the whole truth, or tell Serena the whole truth. Plus the money people making off the cushion the blow. Serena agrees not to say anything for a week, as long as it's not physical between Gabriel and Poppy. At Gallery, Vanessa tries to tell Jane a secret, but they're interrupted by Jane. She asks if he told her about the ring, and they explain that Rufus is looking for a ring. They wonder aloud why he didn't buy a ring, but they agree that it would be okay if they did get engaged. But before Jane and Rufus can agree, they've never seen Rufus more happy. But before both Jane and Dane agree that they've never seen Rufus more happier than he was, and Vanessa encourages them to show their support. However, they're interrupted by Rufus having a loud phone call. Meanwhile, Serena tries on dresses and tells Blair about the 1 week deal with Gabriel. Blair is skeptical of it and says, why didn't she demand proof he'll keep his word? Serena argues that they have a real connection, that Gabriel says he fell for her the night he met her, when she was with Georgina. Blair, confused, she thought Georgina roofied her that night. She was roofied that night. Serena says Gabriel remembers her being completely sober. Blair then muses that she never had to worry about Nate cheating on her, and Serena alludes that they spent the night together. They argue about who's faithful to who until Blair ends the fight by telling Serena that she doesn't want to see her get hurt. At the gallery, Vanessa brings Rufus coffee. She remarks that she'll miss the gallery, but Rufus sadly confesses that the real estate agent isn't... Okay, so he did tell Vanessa. She's sad that he's making her lose her job. She said... the real estate agent doesn't have any interested parties yet, and she thinks it'll be a month before they can find a buyer. Vanessa asks if he has another plan, and Rufus says that a year ago, a rapper company offered to buy the Lincoln Hawk catalog. She offers that he's gonna sell his life's work for, realizes that he's gonna sell his life's work for Dan and Jane, and he admits that he stopped touring. Sell his life's work for Dan, and he admits that while he stopped touring to take care of family, he knows it might have been the worst thing he did for them. Meanwhile, Nate brings Chuck to show him the apartment lease for him and Blair, for Chuck, Nate, and Blair to share, so she won't have to commute via subway. He says that while he bought Chuck as a friend to show him, he also did to make sure there's an understanding that their relationship is serious. Chuck replies that the only reason he bought the place so he could keep an eye on Blair. Nate orders Chuck to never go near Blair again. Before Chuck can respond, his phone answers. Knowing it's Blair, he tells Nate that he's going to take the call outside. On the phone, Blair tells Chuck that Serena keeps falling for Gabriel's lie, and she's worried about her. She says that they need to expose him, and Chuck asks for Poppy's phone number to help them take him down. At the Vanderwoodsons, the co-oping meeting ends with cocktail party begins. Blair goes up to Gabriel and drags him to Serena's room and says that they're going to a tour of the penthouse. While she does that, Chuck brings Poppy to the room as well. When Poppy realizes Gabriel is also dating Serena, and she nails him for cheating. She accuses him of using her for contact, but he swears it's not like that. She tells him to leave with her to prove it. prove he's not, and if he doesn't, she'll call over contact and get them to back out. Gabriel replies that he chooses Serena and not her and her contacts. So she can tell them what she wants. She coldly says that she'll tell them the truth, that he's ruined. She leaves the room when Gabriel follows, saying that he needs the man to be alone. After long, Dan arrives to find Vanessa drinking 6 packs of beer alone. She suggests that they play Never Have I Ever, and he agrees. She reveals that she slept with Chuck twice, and he reveals that he nearly slept with Georgina. Afterwards, she says that as much as his life sucks at the moment, he doesn't need the STD panel recently. He didn't need an STD panel recently. He laughs for asking why his life sucks. Meanwhile, Rufus and Jenny leave the restaurant. They had dinner, and she asks if he's going to Lily. He said yeah, going to Lily's, and he says yes. And she asks why hasn't he been himself? He answers that he's tired but fine, and she knows why he's been weird, and because he wants to propose to Lily. She continues that she and Dan are totally okay with it, but he says it's not the right time to propose. Finally, she reminds him that he's always said that she could do anything if she was willing to fall on her face. So the same theory should apply to him. At the Vanderwoods, Serena tells Gabriel she's glad she chose him over money. He says he'll go back to South Carolina to work with his family, and that he brought his downfall on himself. He adds that he wants to rub the money in his dad's face, and Serena encourages him to find new investors at the party, seeing it as one of the wealthiest co-ops in Manhattan. Serena goes out to find Lily, and Chuck takes the opportunity to ask Gabriel about the night he met Serena. In the hall, Nate surprises Blair by coming to the party. She asks if Chuck and Serena are there, and Blair says they're somewhere, and he brings out keys to an apartment and asks if she'll move in with him. She's surprised, and she says, of course she will. Chuck overhears this and asks if she's moving in with him. Nate says yes, and they're going right now. However, Chuck explains that Gabriel told him that he met Serena at Butter the night before the SAT. Serena says that's impossible, and Chuck agrees. He suggests that they go. Tell Serena, but Nate says they should go to the apartment instead. Blair is caught between two men. Meanwhile, Gabriel explains his company to Rufus and Lily. She's impressed with what they're doing, and he says that some people at Bass Industries have been pushing for the similar project. She asks him to send his proposal to her assistant to look over, and he tells his backers she's in. As Serena is congratulating him, Blair comes over and asks for a minute alone with her in her room. She follows, and Blair brings her where Chuck is waiting. They explain that it's possible for her to have met Gabriel on the night they met because Blair rented out Blair's bartender for Nellie Yuki's sabotage party. Serena argues that Georgina knows the manager, so it was probably a private party, or he doesn't remember correctly. She tells him that they're abusing the situation to get together again, and they need to move on. When she's gone, Chuck reminds Blair that there's the only person who knows what really happened that night. At the law, Vanessa apologizes to Dan for laying out the no financial aid at Yale thing out so quickly. Dan says that Rufus has got to be the only person more upset than he is, and debates on what to do next. Back at the Vanderwoodsons, Gabriel explores more and more investors. Rufus asks for a moment and says he would like to invest as well. Gabriel dispels his interest and offers to help him find investments better suited for someone in Rufus's financial situation. However, Rufus stands firm and insists on being included. Meanwhile, Blair finds Nate and asks to see the apartment the next day because she has something to do. She asks Nate to come with them, but he refuses. She asks him to trust her, and he mulls it over before telling her that he does need to trust her. He allows her to go, and she leaves with Chuck. On the street, Chuck tells Blair Eleanor won't be home that night. Confused, she thought she said she was in Connecticut with her parents. Chuck says that she thought wrong. This is she was dead wrong as they get in the car and call someone inquiring about their visiting hours because they want to see Georgina. The next day, Chuck and Blair wake up in his limo together, saying visiting hours have begun. Chuck suggests that he should go in alone, and Blair realizes that he only brought her to keep her away from Nate. He says that he only asked her to move in to keep an eye on her, and says she can ask him herself, and if it's true, she'll still choose to spend the night with him in a car versus a night with Nate in his apartment. She says she came here looking for her best friend Serena, but Chuck asks if that's really the only reason and gets out of the car and walks away. She enters a Christmas camp where Georgina spots him. Georgina gives him a big hug and asks if he's been saved too. Meanwhile, Georgina and Gabriel wake up and Blair explains that Chuck's been dead against him. She mentions Georgina and her red flowery hair, but Gabriel says the only thing he remembers because that's all he could think is about is her. Serena realized that Chuck and Blair and Chuck were right that Gabriel is lying and leaves the hotel room. Back at Christian camp, Georgina invites Chuck to help her supervise some kids to make props for a play. Chuck is in awe of how well she's playing offline to camp about how religious she is. But she swears that, yeah, she's really religious, that Georgina's religious thing is for real. She explained how at boot camp she was sickened by the person she had been before. So she went to church and found Jesus, resulting in her being happy for the first time in her life. Chuck asks if she knows a man named Gabriel, because he claims to have met Serena at Butter when she roofied her. Georgina says no, when it's impossible because they never went to Butter. At Gabriel's hotel, Poppy knocks and jumps into his arms when he answers. She thanks him for putting on such a realistic performance at the night before and tells her that they make a good team before kissing her. Back at the camp, Chuck receives a call from Serena. She says she was wrong not to believe them and Blair, but doesn't know why Gabriel's lying to her. Chuck tells her to hang tight because he and Blair on their way will be there as soon as they can. However, he notices that the limo is gone and tells Serena that it might take a little longer to get back than anticipated because the car is gone. This limo is missing. At Gabriel's hotel, Poppy enters in all the investors and amount they invested into the computer. She brags that with all the money they got, they should have everything they need by the end of the month. Gabriel's phone rings and he finds a message from Serena and he listens and learns that she's coming back to his hotel because they have to talk. Poppy notes that she sounds nervous and asks why would she be. He answers that she told him that Butter was closed the night they met, and Poppy says they need to get out of here fast. A knock from the door. Poppy goes to hide in the closet. He opens the door to find Rufus on the other side, wanting to deliver his check in person. Meanwhile, Blair goes to the apartment looking for Nate. She says she made a mistake by going with Chuck, and he says it's okay. She then says that she knows she hates Murray Hill, and that's why he really got the apartment. He replies that so they wouldn't be apart, and she asks if that's why he asked her to move in. Nathan admits that her being with Chuck made him jealous, and she realizes that she doesn't trust her. He apologizes and says she loves her. That he loves her. Back at camp, Chuck gets a call from Serena, who is at Gabriel's hotel, which has discovered empty. While she's there, while telling Chuck that he's gone, Poppy enters, seemingly looking for Gabriel. She tells Serena that he can't be gone because she gave him $500,000 and they need to talk. At the law, Rufus brings Dan coffee and reveals he knows about Yale. Dan says that he was accepted to several great schools, including NYU, which means he can live at home. Jay enters his room and adds that they could all live at a new home. They reveal to Rufus that they pooled their savings to help him buy a ring for a teacup. Rufus is presently surprised at their purchase, but insists on paying them back. He announced that if things work out like he wants them to, Dan can go to Yale, and all other things will be happening. Good things will be happening for them. Back at camp, Chuck orders a cab because Blair took it. Georgina asks if Blair's Georgina asks if Blair's there, then says it's her day off, so she would love to visit the city since she missed it so much. And they get into a taxi and leave the ground, ending the episode. So yeah, Georgina's back on the scene. Chuck, it seems like Poppy and Gabriel are conning people. Rufus bought into the con, but it seems like he didn't, because, I don't know, that last scene. Vanessa seems okay with Rufus buying the gallery, even though it means she's out of a job. And Nate and Blair, Nate says that he loves Blair, but does he? Because if her being with Chuck makes him jealous, then does he really love Blair? Yeah. But yeah, next episode we got Wrath of Khan, which is a reference to that Star Trek movie. But anyway, that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time. You know you love me. XOXO, Gossip Girl.